Hi, this is George Alger. Welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. Today we're going to be speaking about Ventura water management. And joining us is Bob Alviani with Venturans for Responsible and Efficient Government, also known as VREG. Welcome, Bob. And can you give us a brief statement about what VREG is?
Good morning, George. Yeah, VREG is an organization of citizens, all volunteer, who've been together for 15 years, and we consider ourselves watchdogs of the city finances.
Very good. Okay, so let's talk about Ventura water management. What's top of your mind there?
Well, the city's got itself in a budgetary problem right now, trying to figure out how they're going to fund public safety. And the greatest amount of money that the city still oversees has to do with their water treatment and their water department. So when you're trying to figure out how you're going to solve the money problems in the city of Ventura, you have to really look to the water department as well and take that into consideration. So there are some great misnomers with regard to the city finance and the water department because most of the time they operate very separately. The city finances have been managed as far as public safety for fire and the police department in particular for many, many years. And those monies come from property taxes and from sales taxes. But also water is the greatest producer of money for the city. And as we've all seen, the city has recently increased their water rates considerably over the next few years to finance some of their own production.
And is it true that that what I've read that in fact Ventura water rates tend to be less than other communities around us?
Well, when you start comparing our community with other communities, there are so many factors that come into consideration: sources of water, how long, what the water rights are, what the infrastructure is. It's very difficult when you start comparing one community to another and start justifying, well, these rates are as low as Thousand Oaks or Camarillo. You have to take into consideration the fact that we've got several water sources and we've got needs that other communities don't have. For instance, I believe the city of Camarillo, or no, I'm sorry, the city of Moore Park receives all of its water from the State Water Project. So when you start comparing cities, you have to be careful what you're comparing.
Okay, very good. Now I understand that the what's the future of Ventura's water? There's some big expenditures that that are coming up, and you wanted to speak about that. Is that the case?
Yes, the water department commissioned a study in 2019 called the Corolla Report in order to, I think, protect themselves against making a decision that was ultimately going to cost the city quite a few hundreds of millions of dollars. The Corolla Report came back and said if the city of Ventura would contract out their wastewater to the city of Oxnard, bring it back and store it in Saticoy in the United Water Conservation wells, it would cost approximately $240 million. Let me correct that. I'm sorry, George. It would cost about $40 million. Instead, the city of Ventura made the decision to actually keep everything in-house, build their own facility, exclude Oxnard, which is going to cost the city of Ventura $240 million. So there's about a $200 million difference. And I think people, when you start using those kinds of numbers, their head swims around with zeros, and they don't have a complete understanding as to how much money that really represents.
Very good. Now, what's the logic or the thinking about keeping it internal and within Ventura?
Well, the water department has used two reasons. One is they don't trust Oxnard. They want to have control, and they don't trust Oxnard to follow through with their commitments, which is really unfounded. First of all, the people who would be involved with impacting or fulfilling a contract are probably not going to be the same people that they'll be dealing with today, because it will probably go out 5 or 10 years out. The second reason they feel is that they want to have total control over the water. And that's also a myth, because the water that goes into the aquifers and the groundwater basins are not completely controlled by any particular municipality anyway. Everyone's got their straws in those basins, and you put in water and you take out water. You just have to be sure that there's enough water to cover it. And if the city of Ventura, if the people managing water really looked at the studies, there's more than enough water. I know people will disagree because they look at their hillsides and they say, oh, the hills are dry, there's not enough water. That's, once again, it's not what you see, but it's what is underneath the ground. And if you look at the studies, which are considered state studies under the Bulletin 118s, there is plenty of water in the basins. But people don't want to visualize that. They think that letting everyone believe that there's not enough water will go ahead and create conservation and will prevent other things that they want to prevent, and that is to have complete control over their future, which is, they're not going to have complete control over their future to begin with.
Okay. Now, Bob, when you're saying there's plenty of water, I just want to sort of define this geographically. Are we talking about just Ventura, or are we talking about Ventura County or the region? I mean, at some point, it seems like there is a lack of water.
Well, we receive our water from several sources. We have the Casitas Municipal Water District. We have the United Water Conservation District. We have Santa Paula Groundwater Basin. We have the Oxnard Plain Groundwater Basin. We have the Mound Groundwater Basin. And we have the two rivers, of course, which feed into those. We have several sources of water. And like I say, it's not what you see, it's what is actually in there. For instance, the Mound Water Basin is huge. When I say huge, I'm talking about over 1 million acre feet of water in the Mound Water Basin underneath the initial layer. Now, is it easy to get to? No. But is there water? Yes. And that's what people miss, is they visualize the hillsides and immediately jump to the conclusion that there's not enough water. The interesting thing about all of this is that the decree that Ventura needs to comply with, the Wichtoya decree, has to do with getting the water, the wastewater, out of the estuary, but it doesn't say one word about how to get it out or what to do with it. It just says get it out. People tie those two things together and think that Water Pure, which is Ventura's way of recycling water, is mandated by this decree, and one has nothing to do with the other. We have to get the water out of there. That's understood. How we get it out is up to us. And if we can get it out for $200 million less than what we have already decided to do, that's a problem.
Okay. Now, we're just about out of time here, Bob. So I want to just sort of wrap some concepts up here. So first of all, just in terms of the plenty of water, we're really talking about Ventura County. Is that correct?
We're actually talking about Ventura City.
Okay, so Ventura City has plenty of water.
But like I say, you have to look at water on a regional basis as well.
Yeah.
Because water doesn't know boundaries.
Very good. Okay, and then your recommendation for this, water management, what would that be?
Well, my recommendation is to stop taking Ventura water department's say so as to what to do, and to actually study the alternatives themselves. The Corolla report was very, very helpful, but most city council people that I've talked to have said the concept of water is just too great for them to wrap their minds around. I don't accept that. If you're an elected politician for the city, I think you need to roll up your sleeves, get in there and start reading these reports, have meetings with these people, and stop talking to people who have a vested interest in the outcome. Start talking to people who really understand what the whole concept of regional water management is.
Very well said. Okay, thank you, Bob. On that note, we're going to wrap things up. This is George Alger. Yeah, you're welcome. This is George Alger signing off from this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until I meet again.